Good morning. Welcome to the webinar. I was just about ready to sign out and go about my day doing business. Welcome to the webinar. This webinar is MAPS 1. It's the first of a series of 2, and you do need to take this one before you take 2. You can, from a screen that shows Show Map at the bottom, click on Show Map. That brings up the whole state of Hawaii. And if you notice, the pin is sitting in the water because we have no search results. Now you can utilize these tools up here to zoom in until you find it. Well, that is an extremely hard way to do that. Now there's other ways before we actually get into doing a search. The search is the main recommended way when you're looking for a property. Hopefully you know which property you're looking for. If not, hopefully you know what area you're looking for. But even at dashboard, when you're looking at this listing activity, the one line of information, which is pretty common throughout the system, the first thing is a little globe. You click on that and it shows a map. This map is pretty good because it shows a lot of different streets. Up here is where the map shows up. On the upper toolbar, you click X and it goes away. I'm going to change this information here. Because I want to look for something and see if I can find something. No. Well, hopefully maybe I'll be able to point it out at another point. Here, the second thing over is Google Street View. You can click on that and it brings you the street view of the property. And if you want to know how to utilize this map, what I'm doing is just clicking and moving it. So I'm rotating it around. You can follow it down the street if you want. There are some tools. I've got them covered up with my control panel over here that lets you do elevation, or it's not working for me. Zooming in, zooming out. And if you want to know everything there is to know about the street view, you need to go to Google and learn that program. And next is the tax map. This will bring up, I'll show you, this is not really part of the class. This is this afternoon's class. It brings you up the plat map. That's it. Property doesn't show on the plat map or anything. Now I'm going to go to settings briefly because there's a few things here that talks about the maps before we actually get into them. The map layout. You can look at the map with the map on top, the map on the bottom, map left or map right. I kind of prefer this layout, but it's your preference. You click Save Changes, and that's what it'll be every time you open it up. On the street view, you can open it up in a new window, which is what we did, or right in the system. When I open it up with my laptop right in the system, I don't have the close button, and I can't manipulate the map frame to get the close button. Now, that might be a problem just with my computer, or it could be a problem with rectangular screens rather than square screens. That's why I have mine marked to open up a new window. And let me think. The text map preference, that's in this afternoon's class. I just feel like I'm forgetting one, but we'll head back to search. What we recommend is put a search into the system. Then you click search, you get your search results. Now you open the map. This way it shows the properties, puts a pin on one of the properties, and I'll explain that a little bit more in just a second. You'll notice every single property is highlighted, even though you can't even see it on some of them. This map is kind of small. So what you need to do to start with is get rid of this menu bar. You come over here to the right, the three bars, it says toggle the menu, you click on it and boom, it moves over. Another thing you can do is bring your mouse down, you get a double arrow on this line, you can drag it down. Sometimes it works with this computer, sometimes it doesn't. It's working right now partially. Now talking about I'm going to show you a couple more methods, but right now my control panel is covering it. And before I move my control panel and covers the pin information, I'm going to do the pin information first. The pin is on this property. That's why this circle is red. You come down, the rest of them are gray. If you click on, go all the way to the bottom, make it real obvious. You click on this circle, it goes red and the pin moves. Another thing is you always have to have a tool in your hand. And you notice the pin isn't there on the screen for some reason. And I'm going to left click on the screen and drag, and there's where the pin is sitting. It was just out of my sight line. Now moving my control panel out of the way, we have 5 tools down the right-hand side. The top one, it's saying full screen. What that does is it basically gets rid of your search results and fills up the screen. You click it again and it goes back and brings up the search results back. And it moved my line a little bit. The next one is a pop-out. And you click on that and it opens up a new screen. And this is kind of an example of what it would look like on your telephone. Tablet, of course, it's going to be a little bit wider. But one of the things, I'm going to full size it, it does not have the search results. Whichever way you can work better with it, that's the way you want to enlarge your screen. The next one is shows layers and legends. That opens up another box. That I will be talking about towards the end of the class, and I will be covering in full this afternoon. Plus, obviously, zoom in. You click on it, it zooms in a little bit. Minus, click on it, and it zooms out a little bit. That's these 5 tools. Move my control panel back. Now let's talk more about the screen, about the map itself. You'll notice all the highlights are gone. When I change the location of the pin, the only property that's highlighted is the property that the pin is sitting on. A, green, means it's an active listing. The C, in the blue, it's a contingent listing. There's a different color and, of course, initial for each status. If you want, another thing about the pin is if you click on one of these flags, the pin jumps over there. The search results find the property, so you have that information, and it opens up this info box. Because we're working with the MLS, it opens up with an MLS. If you were working just with TMK information, the MLS wouldn't show up. It would just be the TMK tab. You can click on the TMK number, pop opens the TMK full. There we go. Of course, I lost my size of my screen. When I do the rest of the demonstration, I'll use the pop-out screen. That way, this won't interfere. You also have the MLS number here. You can click on that and get the MLS mid. You have the listing history, the camera, and a link into the tax maps. Now, tax maps, that link might not be there if your company does not buy the tax maps. To close this, you click on the X and it's gone. And I forgot to show you something. The TMK tab. The TMK number or the address, you can click on either one of them. It'll bring up the TMK full. If it's had any fairly recent activity like 2004 or earlier or later, you will have the BOC, which is the link into the title of the property. BOC stands for Bureau of Conveyances. Okay, I'm going to use the pop-out window since hopefully that'll be less aggravation for both of us. The search, your mouse, I don't know why my brain is not 100% this morning. You can drag the map anywhere you want it. Let's talk about the tools up here at the top. First one, it says rectangular and zoom in through the hover help. That's a magnifying glass with a plus on it. If you click on the screen, it zooms in. You lose it right away. If you left click and drag, you can draw a box and that'll make it zoom in even quicker. Rectangle zoom out, one click and it pushes it out. If you draw a box, it kind of centers based on that box and pushes it out. Now you didn't see much of a push out because I drew a fairly large box. Next is the pin, and I'm going to use the zoom in to get us closer. You can grab the pin right here if you want. Left click and hold. You can drag it to a piece of property, set it down, and the other screen has got a TMK full on it. That's one bad thing about using the pop-up window. You can also grab it from the screen and move it. And when you set it down, it will pop up the TMK full. Next on our list, and of course, again, you can click on the flag, the measuring tool. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer. You click on it, it opens up a box. We start off with one line. You left click and hold, and when you release, it tells you that distance is 255 feet. These are approximate measurements, and these are not surveyor's tools. And reason being, look how far off I was. It didn't look like I was that far off, but I was. When you're dealing with the measuring tool, you can say approximate, so that way you're not committing to a certain size. In this afternoon's class, I'd lay this tool up against a tax map, against the measurement on the tax map, and you'll be surprised how close it comes. Another way to zoom in and out is the scroll wheel on your mouse. I always forget to mention that when I'm talking about the zoom in and zoom out. Hit clear to get rid of it. Next is segments. You left click and release on this one. That way you can follow streets and tell people. You double click on the end and you can tell people what the total distance is, and it does convert into miles. You can tell them which segment it is. Again, approximate distances. You'll notice English and metric. You can convert it into meters. Next on our list is the path. If you don't want to give them segments, you can left click and hold and draw the path. Depending on how straight you are in drawing, it could be a little bit better. And clear. Area. This comes in handy. Again, it gives you the approximate area. You run into a property like this. If you run into one where you have, not seeing anything right here in any of these, where if this was straight across, you could calculate what this rectangle would be and then cut it in half because it's got an angle right through one corner to the other. Or if when you run into one like this, you left click and release and you just follow the property line. And when you get to the point where they should connect, you double click and it'll draw that last line. It gives you the perimeter and the approximate square footage. Again, this will convert into acres when you get big enough. If you're dealing with less than 7,500 square feet or something like that, it's not going to convert into acres. It's just going to give you the square footage. Also metric, square meters. And I think the metrics, it converts to hectares when you get bigger. One last thing that we have a problem with in the Big Island, and I'm sure it's not unique to the state, is up the Hamakua coast. That was all being used, almost all being used by sugar companies. They needed to haul the cane in and out with their semis. They created their own roads. Well, those roads, a lot of those roads are not on the map unless they happen to get lucky and put their road in the same place it is on the map. But also in reverse, some of the map roads were ridiculous, and there's no way trucks could get up the hill or around a corner or something like that. And that's another reason why they built their own roads, which means you've got roads on the map and they're not in existence. I actually had some idiot agent, and there are idiots out there that told me he'd tell us where the property is when we bring him an offer. What buyer is going to buy a property and write an offer on a property and waste their time when they don't even know what property they're buying? Be realistic. If you have a GPS device and you know how to convert latitude and longitude to what the GPS device needs, you can come here, and under the measuring tool is lat long. Come to the corner of the property, click on it, and there it gives you the latitude and longitude. Convert that into your GPS speak, and you can drive right to that location. This will help you with, is the road down the middle of the property? Is it on one end or another? Or is there another property between the edge of this property and the road? This will help you. You can write down all the different locations, all the corners, and you've got it. Next on our list here is draw. If you click on that box, you'll see a list of items. Click on one of them, you left click and hold, and you can draw a rectangle. But you notice nothing happens. That's because it has nothing to do with manipulating the map. What this is a search parameter. Hit clear to clear it, and the other day it wouldn't clear. So next we have action. Copy. What it's going to do, maybe I should do this one from the regular map. That way you see what actually happens. Okay, actions. Copy. It pops open another screen, and it depending on your browser and this one puts a tab up here. It's a picture of what is currently on your screen in HIS. Because of the cross-browser usage and now being able to use Macs, and not all of them operate the same way. Like Explorer would open up the notepad, and then you could just paste wherever you wanted because it was in the notepad. Well, Macs don't have a notepad. HIS's alternative is to make everybody do it the same way, which is when you click on copy, it opens up a new screen outside of HIS. Then you can use whatever your browser, whatever your computer uses to copy the screen. We no longer actually copy inside of HIS. Next is print. It's the same thing. They bring it out of HIS, but now they also bring up whatever default printer you have stored on your computer. and you can utilize your normal computer methods to do your print. You also have PDF and email. In other words, the system will let you open up Adobe and create a PDF. In email, we're using HIS's email server. Notice the box. There is no message. The message, the map will be there depending on what method you use. It'll either be a link to the map or the map will be in your email. Brings up the email server, you put the information in there, and you can click, the copy me is automatically clicked, or you could take that off and put a BCC. That way you're verifying that, yeah, you got it. It went out because you got it. And then lastly, the basket. Now, what you're looking at here is actually two different screens. It's not one screen. And that's why what you might have noticed, every time a screen popped up except for the email, it only had the map. Well, you can put the map in the basket. Now, it tells you this is your basket. You go back to the search, you come down to the bottom, and on the bottom toolbar there's a basket as well. Click on that basket. It asks you, do you want the stuff that you have checked? You might want to just check whatever flags are here, or you might only want the stuff that's not checked because everything that you checked you eliminated, or the whole page. And you can do it customer format right from here. Click customer format, said I want the whole page. Now you have the map and the search results all on one page. The tools at the bottom, copy, print, email, turn it into a PDF, or remove. Remove could be you realized you missed this contingent, so you put a check mark on it and say remove. And you remove the checked, and now that one's gone. This way you've got everything all in one notch. I usually, if I'm dealing with just a small number of properties, I might do this right away. Otherwise, I send the list, and if they say, can I get a map for a certain property, then I use the other method. And that would be just to send the map from up here of the property that they're asking for. Next up here is the go-to. All islands. Believe it or not, this does come in handy. You go, why would I want to do that? A number of years ago when Aloha and Hawaiian were both flying into Hilo, they came in like within 10-15 minutes of each other every hour. So we knew what time the flights came in, and it was an all-day thing. It's nothing like what it is now. They come in when they want. They miss 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day, and that's Hawaiian only. We had a client call up one of my agents, and they said, we're coming into Hilo. Here's a list of properties we'd like to see. He asked them when they would be here. They gave them a time and a day and time. The time didn't match up with our normal flights. Now there were some little mixes back then, like there was maybe a flight to and from Kona once a day and one to and from Maui once a day. but we didn't kind of register that that's what it could have been. He asked, which airport you flying into? Thinking he was going to tell us Kona. He said, no, he says, I'm flying into Honolulu. Okay, when are you going to come over to Hilo? His response was ridiculous. He says, we're going to check the bags, we're going to go get our rental car, and then we're going to drive to Hilo, so however long it takes to get there. There are still people, even in the U.S., they were U.S. citizens, that have no comprehension what Hawaii is and have never been here. There's a lot of people who have never been here. You might need to send this map to show them we're multiple islands and there are no roads between the islands. Next go to, you can take it to the island. And of course, I'm having this problem, which I have every now and then. If you go out further, bring it in further, it will show where Kona is, Hilo is, or wherever their properties happen to be that they want to look at. And you can point out that this is where all your properties are. Which airport are you flying into, Kailua, Kona, or Hilo? If you're flying into Kona, you got around a 2-hour drive without sightseeing. Oop, wrong box. There we go. I'm going to skip one and go to map pin. That will jump right to the property that has the pin on it. And that's even if the property with the pin is not on your active list. Now and then, you run into this. And you go, okay, click the minus sign, boom. And it still looks the same. Click the minus sign, draw a box, boom, still the same. You come to the go-to, click on matches, and it takes you right back to the original map. And then you can start doing your zooming and whatever from that point. Download, that's the next tool up here. That's this afternoon's class because all of that involves the tax maps. Okay, we're going to start with the draw tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle or a square or something like that. Now, it didn't do anything. If I modify the search, and one thing I probably should have pointed out down here on your recap bar, your request bar, it now adds in the map rectangle. That rectangle is, that square is a search result, search parameter. Now if I click search and I back it up, the only place there's flags are inside the box. They're no longer anywhere else. I'm going to pop it out. That way we get a better picture of it than the squashed picture. So now you can see better that there are no other searches. And this line just keeps creeping up. There, it's down. To get rid of the rectangle, you hit clear. Now I'm going to zoom in because I want to be able to see considerably more. Well, next one I'm going to zoom in even more. Next on our list is the circle, which I'm going to show you last. This is a polygon, and I decided I am going to come in a little bit closer. So we're going to pick up the polygon. This is one of those where you left click and release. Now, more than likely, when you're doing a search for somebody, these are two separate plats, but this one whole area could be one individual plat. And they tell you they want to be on the ocean side of this street. They don't, nothing to do with the other side. You grab the polygon, you left click, you come down, change your direction, and when you get someplace where they'll go together, you double click and the last two will join. I just clicked modify, and I'm actually going to hide the map. That way I can take all these off, put expireds on. Do my search and reopen my map. And you'll see all the expireds are inside the green lines. There's none of them out here anywhere. And you got to figure there's going to be expired listings everywhere. Clear that. Next on the draw is freehand. And just like that other one, you can draw whatever you want, wherever you want, and then when you release, that's the area it's going to search. So now I modify, click search, and you'll notice all the expireds that were down here are gone. And get in closer again. Yeah, it's probably a little too close. Clear it. Now this one, the circle, it comes in handy in so many ways. You can do farming with the other ones as well. Question, can you save a search like that? Yes. You could have a save search with the diagram on the map because it is a search parameter. You can't save the results unless you put it in the basket, and then as soon as you turn off the program, you lose it. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to modify, and it's going to be difficult for me to figure out what I'm doing here. I'm going to change the format to TMK instead of MLS. And if you're farming, you're looking for properties that aren't active listings. You can, of course, do the same thing if you're looking for a buyer, create a circle and ask for the active listings within the circle or any of the other polygons. I don't know why they decided to name polygons. They were named the rubber band tools. And then they're the difference, the rectangle, the circle, the polygon, and the freehand. But down here it all says polygon. But if you're doing a farm where you're going to be writing letters to a whole bunch of people seeing if they want to sell their property, you're going to want a TMK short, not TMK. But I am just putting a TMK so I don't have as much information. You're going to want to tell it you want all the listings, not just 40 of them. And you're going to want to get rid of things like the residential status. I was trying to figure out how I was going to get rid of them because I'm missing my bottom box right now. When you come in here, let's say this person right here, you just sold that property to them. They want to put a store in. County of Hawaii says you have to write everybody within 1,000 feet of the property and ask them if they have a problem with you opening a store there. That's, of course, if it's not zoned specifically for what you're doing. And sometimes even if it is, they still have you do it. You come up, you grab the circle, you left click and hold, and then you drag it out. Now, one thing you have to remember, hopefully you're using a PC type computer or a Mac with a big square screen so that you can do this a lot better. And you might want to use the full screen mode. They're talking from the side of the property, from the edge of the property. So if the property is 100 foot wide and you're about in the middle, you probably should just base it on the property's 100 foot wide. I'm going to go 100 foot larger than necessary. They don't care if you go larger. Now, if they get a bad letter from somebody, you could turn around and find out, is that within that 100 feet? How far away is that person's property? And maybe they shouldn't have gotten a letter in the first place. Once you get your circle in, you click search. And you notice we got all these P for property. One thing I have noticed is if you're dealing with a large property like this here, this big one, it might not flag it. There might be a couple right here. This number 12, for some reason, it decided not to flag it, probably because majority of it is outside. You might want to make sure that you don't miss any, just in case the county gets picky. And all you'd have to do is print out the TMK shorts, and you can supply your client with the names and addresses of all the owners. I did this for one of my clients. Sometimes you have to run two lists. If you're doing alcohol, you have to do a second list that's even closer in. He got all his letters and everything ready to mail, and he went to the county and showed them everything that he was doing, and they said, "Where did you get the list?" Because there are companies out there that will do this for people at a fairly high cost, and get all the names. Exactly how they do it, I don't know. If they've got a program like this that they can do it with, I haven't the foggiest. But he told him I went to my agent. My agent drew a circle on the map and said that was a certain number of feet with my property in the middle, and told it to give him the list of name and addresses for all the people in that circle. And it did. And I typed up all the letters and I put them into the post office, and here's the receipt saying how many letters I mailed, and here's the list of who I mailed to, and they said, well, can we see that map? And you can actually print this with the circle on it, so you can give it to them if they ask for it. And the guy says, that's great. They were happy with it. Unless they've changed their rulings in the past 5 years, they were happy with it. You could do the same thing based on a church. I want to be within a mile of a church. I want to be within a mile of grocery shopping. I want to be my farm to be within 10 miles of my house, because I don't want to go any more than 10 miles out of a circle. There's all kinds of things you can do with these drawing tools. Okay. Now I am going to go back to my regular search, back to MLS, and I don't really need to change it off all since I've only got like 10 listings. Do we have any questions utilizing the tools? Now would be a great time to ask them. Use the control panel, click on the arrow, expand out the box, type in your question, and send it to me. Stupid thing won't close. Zoom in, zoom out, the pin, and the pin comes in handy. I didn't say this, but you could obviously realize it is the fact that your client is telling you there's this big albizia tree on my neighbor's property. I need to write them a letter to tell them to do something about it because the branches are starting to fall off onto my property. And then you can just pick up the pin, set it down on that property, and give them the name and address. What if you search in MLS under format, not the TMK? If you do MLS, you're only going to get the MLS items. And of course, if you're asking for actives, you'll only get the active listings. You won't get everything. Even though you might be doing a TMK search, if you just say you want the MLS, it's only going to find the MLS. And if you haven't put any status in it, it's going to find all the expireds, the withdrawns, and it's going to flag them as such, the actives, the solds, and it's going to go as far back as it can to get that information. It's going to use the most current if there are multiple flags. Okay, I said that this box here, I was going to hit it later in class. Oh, another thing I didn't mention on the Google. Every once in a while, you'll click the link to the Google Street View, and it'll come up and tell you there is none. That's not our fault. That's Google. Okay? I clicked on this middle box here. You have the layers and legends box. we have it marked standard. There are this list to choose from, but you can only pick one of those. You can come down here and you notice we have highways and streets and parcels, and we have those two checked. Those three items opened when I first clicked this box. You can pick out whatever you want, whichever single layer up here and whichever layers you want down here, and then save that as your default. And then every time you open up that box and you open up the map, every time you open up the map, that's what's going to show up. This is standard view with the highways and the parcel numbers. And you probably noticed when I was in close, you could see the parcel numbers. I'm surprised it doesn't say you have to be in closer, but we have it as default. House numbers, it's got an asterisk down here, zoom in to see. The fire stations, the same thing. And aerial imagery. We used to have 3 different levels of aerial imagery. They got rid of one finally, but there are 2 different levels of it. I go over all of these this afternoon. Everything under the base layers and everything under the optional layers. I'm going to give you a couple hints right now in case you're not coming back this afternoon. We got to get the map closer. And now you notice we can do aerial imagery. Click on aerial imagery and it brings up an aerial shot. Now the old ones, and I haven't found a spot, I haven't really looked very hard either. I haven't found a spot that this aerial photos don't cover. Things you got to remember about them. Well, the old system, those people photographed mainly populated areas. So when you got out into the country, you didn't have any. That's because those people came down to the surface, went to those populated areas, knocked door to door, and offered to sell them an aerial picture of their property. That's how they made tons of money. I'm not sure what we've got here. These are crisper than those. Those were a little bit fuzzy. When you get in really close, they start to get fuzzy. These are taken from high elevation, and there are a group of photos. It's not just one big photo, which also means that they're taking them through a lens. The center of that lens is perfect. And as you get further and further out in that lens, things are going to start getting a little distorted. So every once in a while, you'll find a property line that goes like right here, I think, goes right through the house. Well, that is probably the picture's fault, not the property's fault. Another thing that you run into when you're dealing with the aerials, we got a little bit lucky here because normally I don't get the contour elevations, which gives you a hint where the contour lines are. Maybe it works a little bit better with the aerials, with the new aerials. Can you see this line right here? You have to watch what you're putting together. Things tend to get blurred. You get too many things in there, you can't tell what's what. Annual rainfall. Do you see it? No, that's because this came off of an actual rainfall map. And in order to see it, you got to be zoomed out. You lose your aerial. Some items have to be zoomed out. Some items have to be zoomed in. Sorry, just trying to adjust in here. Another thing that you got to look at, do they blend in together? I just marked special management area and a tsunami evacuation area. Can you tell which is which from looking at this? There's your special management, and there's your tsunami. Pick and choose what you want at the same time. Oop, I wanted to close that box. I'm not, the rest of it, and I'll be probably telling you the same things if you're coming this afternoon about a few of these things.